troubles connecting. Oh my goodness. Welcome to Berries and Tea Instagram show, episode 11. And we have an amazing guest speaker. When I say the word amazing, I'm not saying it lightly. This person is of someone I idealize, Dr. Saliha. She is a wonderful person as well as such a professional in her field, and I can't wait to have her on live. It's such an honor to even have her as a guest. So once she joins, we'll invite her into the room, and we'll be talking about the emotion of anger. What is anger? What are the implications of repressing it? How do we... There's Dr. Saliha. Dr. Saliha, please request to join the live. Yes, you request. I hope it works because there was some issues with the internet. Yes, is she here? Hi, Dr. Saliha.
Hi.
I am so happy to see you. This is such an honor. Thank you so much for participating in our Berries and Tea show. I hope you got your cup of tea.
You know what? I already drank it.
Okay. To get ready.
It's been a hectic morning. I needed to chill out before I got on here, so I'm
cool.
happy.
Good. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. So today's topic, we'll be discussing anger. And before you start, Dr. Saliha, I wanted to also just share a little bit of my knowledge. As a health coach and also as a facelift therapist, I know that the implications of anger are quite physically, there are physical side effects. For example, when you hold a lot of anger, there's a lot of tightness in your muscles of the jaw. So when I do the massages, it is so painful for people when we release that muscle inside. That's one thing. And obviously when there's so much tension in the face, the cells of the skin don't work so well. So then we get this dullness and not so healthy skin. So that's on a physical appearance. And of course, on a health sort of appearance, the liver can go off, the stomach, there's so many organ tissues that can also be affected by repressing or having too much anger. So this is my very little knowledge on anger from a physical appearance and also inside. So now I want to know, what is anger, Dr. Saliha, and how the hell do we deal with it?
Well, let me just tell you that I have extensive knowledge of anger only because I've been very angry my whole life. And so I've had to study it because it was a very scary emotion. It can be a very shaming and isolating emotion. A lot of the cultures, a lot of the religions always tell you to sort of, let go of your anger. And no one really teaches you how to integrate that. No one really teaches you what you should do with that, because if it's inside of us, then it's natural. But what should we do with that anger? No one teaches us. If I ask people, is anger good or bad? Almost 100% of the people are going to say anger is bad. I want to get rid of anger. I want to let it go. I want to, let it come out of me. I just don't want to be angry. I want to be calm. And this is what people will say. No one actually says, I would like to sit and understand why I am so angry. No one actually says that I actually would like to integrate my anger and use it as a way to fuel my life's passion. No one says that. And that's where my journey of anger has been. I was always quite, I guess maybe just a very boundary child. I was very spirited in my opinions, and that just didn't go over really well. In the culture that I grew up in, everybody was just telling me what I needed to be, and that just didn't go over very well with me and my opinionated self, and the sort of strong-spirited self did not go over. So that's my journey with anger. But let me tell you a little bit about what happens in the body. So the way I want to sort of talk about it today is like, what happens in the body, what happens when you repress it, and what can you do when you feel it. So I want to organize myself in this way because
Yeah.
of course there are muscles in the face. I mean, I have a very strong jawline, and that's thanks to my anger, my grind. And so this is just, you know, and I hope that I can release some of that tension in my face, but yeah, we'll get to that in a bit. So what happens in our body when we are angry? First of all, anger is very natural. If you are not feeling anger, or if you are not angry, then there's probably something that you need to work on, because you are probably repressing it or dissociated from it. And that in itself is going to have the body do all sorts of things. And bad skin is the least of your worries, because it's going to develop into a whole lot of other stuff. And, you know, bad facial muscles is going to be the least of your worries. So that fight or flight response is basically what anger is. When we go into that fight or flight response, so let's just say somebody cuts you off on the road. Our fight or flight kicked on in that moment, and we're ready to feel like somebody just crossed the line. Somebody just put our life in danger. Somebody put the life of our children in danger, and we're ready to attack. Now this is, or somebody says something wrong to you, somebody says something wrong about your culture, about your religion, about the way you raise your family, about the way you work. And that is going to activate that defense inside of you that you just crossed the line here. So anger is an emotion that tells you that a boundary has been crossed, a line has been crossed, a limit has been encroached on, and that's what is the message of that anger. But what happens in that fight or flight response? Way back when we used to live in the savannah or the forest or the jungles, we were not this modern man. We needed that fight or flight response in order to protect ourselves from enemies, from dangerous animals, from other things, right? And that fight or flight response is basically evolutionarily built into us. This is not something that we have to train to be. This is our evolutionarily built-in mechanism of anger. And basically what happens when you are in that fight or flight response, your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, glucose gets released into the body. You are now ready to run, you're ready to fight, you're ready to attack, you're ready to defend in that moment. Fatty acids go up, inflammation goes up. Basically, all your blood basically goes to your limbs, and you're ready to now move forward or run from that attack. But what happens on the flip side of things, because you need all of your energy for survival in that moment, your other systems shut down. And this is what most people don't know about fight or flight. Most people don't know that when you are angry and you're in a chronic state of anger, and I'll talk about repressed anger in a little bit. I'm just talking about when someone really upsets you and you're angry. Other parts of your body shut down. All your long-term projects shut down, because you don't need to digest your lunch when you're about to become someone's lunch. You're going to have your digestive system shut down. Cortisol is going to be shooting through your body. The natural killer cells shut down, because you don't need immunity. You need to live in that moment. And these were supposed to be short bursts of fight or flight, not this chronic state that we're living in now. The thyroid system shuts down. The sex hormones shut down. Infertility systems shut down. That's why there's havoc in the fertility systems these days. There's a lot of infertility that people are struggling with, is because of that chronic stress. So anger, chronic stress, fight or flight, they're basically all the same thing. And most of us are not walking around angry for hours upon hours, but that's basically what happens in the short term. So of course, when our growth hormone is shut down, that's not going to be bad. It's not going to be good for any part of your body. If you get a bruise, you're not going to heal as quickly. If you get a cut, you're not going to heal as quickly. Inflammation causes things like psoriasis and acne, and it doesn't allow your skin to heal. It doesn't allow the blood flow to actually move to your face, and actually, the lymphatic system can get a little bit clogged up, and that can make you swell up. And liver systems shut down, because liver is just basically digesting glucose at that time. And so all of that is going to impact all of your organs. Now, let's move in to anger when it's not expressed. Now, there, like I said, there's a lot of shame and guilt associated with anger. And a lot of people feel very guilty when they're angry, a lot of shame when they're angry, because every time you have this outburst as a kid, you don't have a frontal lobe fully functioning. As a kid, you're like, oh, this kid is, you know, bothering me, and you punch that kid. Then the teacher puts you in the corner. Then your mother, you know, punishes you when you get home. Then you don't get to eat the chocolate cake. Then you don't get to watch TV for the next 2 weeks. And so you realize, you say, oh, okay, every time I'm angry, I get punished. Every time I'm angry, I get shamed. Every time I'm angry, I do something wrong. Every time I'm angry, I get ostracized. Don't be angry. So you belong. I don't want to be angry because I want to belong. I want to be loved. I want to be hugged. I want to be cared for. Kid doesn't know that. A little kid doesn't know that. They're just acting out because that's just because they have boundaries and they have opinions and they have a way of doing things. You have kids that are super chill and super sober, but then you have kids who really just, you know, for whatever their reasons might be, maybe they're being bullied, maybe they're being neglected, maybe they're being punished at home, whatever, the way they were parented, maybe their own internal spirit is just that way. And so it's really about that behavior then sort of translating over into the adult. And then what happens, especially with women, by the way, women are not socialized to be angry. Men, it's better you're angry than you cry. Come on, be a big boy, toughen up. That toughen up language comes out as, it's better if he gets in a fight and gets all scraped up, but please don't stand in the corner and cry. So men get different messages from the society, and women get different messages from society. And the women are actually told to repress it, hold that anger, be a lot more complying with whatever is being asked of you. So there goes the type A, type B, type C personality. And people who repress anger usually are higher risks for cold, asthma, cancer, autoimmune diseases, lupus, MS. This is because what happens in the body is that emotional expression is a natural thing. Now we want to do it in a way that is constructive and not destructive. We need to teach our kid, hey, listen, man, you've got a lot of fuel to that fire. We got to teach you how to rein that in. And I always use the analogy of X-Men. Some kids just have a whole lot of, you know, energy, and you need to teach them rather than reprimand them. You need to discipline them. Disciple means to teach the kid how to use their power for energy of anger rather than to repress it. And when you actually repress it, you actually are you're basically turning, the body gets really confused. The body is saying, wait a minute, we're supposed to attack right now. We're supposed to attack right now. Why are you not attacking? So these confusing signals, the body says, you know what? I'm going to attack myself.
Okay.
And the immune system gets attacked, autoimmune, thyroid, immune systems, etc., etc. That's when the attack towards the body starts to happen. This is the type C personality. And type C personality are known to be suppressors. They're stoic. They're the denier of information. They're super rational, super logical, super nice people. They're unemotional. You know, they're very much into people pleasing at the expense of themselves and at the denial of themselves. They actually betray themselves. And so the body then says, I will attack the betrayer. And guess who the betrayer is? You. And so this is why healthy expression of anger is so important, because the body will turn against you, period.
So, Dr. Saliha, just to ask you there, I know last year or in the, you know, few times, as my personal experience, when I get verbally attacked or verbally, you know, sort of mistreated, and I know that because I numb, my breath shallows, I freeze, and I can't react. I don't know. I just stop. And then after the moment passes, like 3 hours later, I'm like, you should have done this and you should have said that. And how could you have, let that person step all over you, And that anger comes so much later than in the moment.
Yeah.
How to, and I'm sort of becoming a little bit aware of it now and trying to, speak out for myself, but it's so uncomfortable. So where's this coming from? And how can one, or how can I improve that?
So that's a very normal reaction because there's fight, flight, freeze.
Freeze.
In that freezing moment, you can literally dissociate from your body. And I know we have different definitions of dissociations, or I should say different levels of dissociation. But what happens in that moment is that you are so flooded that your body says, this is not safe, shut it down. And you literally shut down. And it's almost like you've left the body because you can't react, you're frozen, you don't know what to do because you don't have the skills to actually do something in that moment. You don't know how to calm the nervous system down. You don't know how to say, okay, everything's gonna be fine, everything's gonna be okay. You're just like a rewind back to when you were 4 years old and that kid is being attacked by this huge thing. Imagine a dragon in front of you or a huge big grown-up that is yelling and shouting, and you're just standing there thinking, I don't know what to do. That is a level of I am too flooded now. Because fight or flight is actually within the normal range. People who get so flooded, and mostly this will happen, I don't have a lot of research to back this up, but I can tell you from personal experience that dissociation is for people that are highly sensitive and they don't have the skill set to actually do something about their nervous system right now. Because you could get yelled at and I could get yelled at, and maybe you are, or I am more sensitive than you, and I just left completely, and someone shouts at me and I might shut down. And so it really just depends on how thin your skin is, what your reactive system is. So what you're going to want to do are people that actually have that freeze response, like frontal lobe shut down, because this is what happens when you're angry. So there's a hand model that Siegel uses, and this is our amygdala, which is our low brain, which is our animal brain. This is what all mammals on the planet have, the animal brain. The frontal lobe is the human brain. This is the seat of, hey, 3 hours later, this comes back online. When you are flooded, when you are in that fight or flight response, your aperture narrows. You are now looking only for survival. And your frontal lobe basically shuts, you literally flip your lid. This part of your brain actually gets flooded and it doesn't work as well. You can't think creatively. You can't problem solve in that moment. You're literally just looking to bolt at that point. So you need to find a way to bring yourself back online. And that coming back online is the skill that you're going to want to learn in that moment. And it is a muscle. Just like you can't lift, 200 pounds the day you walk into the gym, but maybe after a long while, you'll be able to lift that. It's the same muscle. What most people do, and I think Beryl actually said this on one of her questions, is that they avoid conflict, so the muscle never gets developed. They avoid how are you going to learn how to swim if you don't get in the water? Like, you got to get in the water to learn how to swim.
Yeah.
And first you put your feet in the water, then you get a coach to teach you how to, paddle in the water, then you hold a board, then you. So this is how you're going to have to learn how to calm the nervous system down. But most of our reaction is coming from when we were very, very young and we didn't know better and no one taught us better. So it's better to fight, flight, or freeze in that moment.
Amazing. So yeah, something to think about for me personally, but also there were lots of questions on asking, okay, we know what anger does. It's bad. Bad, which is not so, yeah,
No.
wrong. It's not bad. It's actually just a normal emotion to express ourselves. So how do we manage it in a way that is diplomatic, that is sort of controlled, contained, and but still expressing that the boundary has been crossed?
Yeah. So I think, just to zoom out and start from the top line, anger is information. anger is a message from your spirit. Imagine that there's a spirit inside of you, and it shoots out different emotions to tell you what you need to work on. And this little spirit guide inside of you is saying that was a line that was crossed. That was a person you loved that you just lost. That was grief. That's a thing that you really wanted. That was disappointment. So this is just information. So that's the first thing. You've got to have the mindset that there's nothing wrong with this. And look how easily you just said, we know anger is bad. Look how easily, look how hardwired that is into your psyche. So changing your relationship to anger is going to be step number one. When it comes to visit, you don't slam the door on anger. You say, come on in, tell me what this is about. When you this relaxed sense, whoa, honey, what's going on now? Tell me what's going on. Then it's going to say, okay, well, this person hurt me, and this person betrayed me. Then it actually starts to talk to you. So that's the first thing I'm going to say, is that if you cannot change the frame with which you come at anger, don't even try doing anything else I'm about to say. The second thing I'm going to say is that anger is a physical reaction to, right? It really, really gets your sympathetic system going. So you've got to get that parasympathetic system to turn on in order for your front line to come on, in order for your frontal lobe to come on, in order for you to think creatively, in order for you to assert yourself. You're going to need because all of our skills sit here. This is what differentiates us from all other mammals on the planet. We have a frontal lobe. This is a seat of consciousness. This is a seat of human thinking, creativity, etc. We need that to come online. It ain't gonna come online if you don't learn how to calm that system down. The fastest way, and most people will roll their eyes, go ahead, but fastest way to do that is going to be through your breath. Your breath is going to be the anchor that you're gonna focus on. This is why all the top, Army personnel and Navy SEALs, the first thing they learn, one of the first things they learn is control your breath. Because in times of crisis, that's going to be your anchor. Most people, they don't even know that they're breathing. When was the last time you actually really focused on the breath? But that's going to be the rocking that's going to calm you down. That rhythmic breathing, that coherence that you can build, that sends a signal to the brain that says, everything's fine. We're not in danger. Now, as you are doing the breathing, you're going to need to talk from your inner adult to your inner child. Because remember, that 4-year-old is acting up right now. When someone is yelling at you, you're thinking, oh, shoot, man, this person's about to attack me. This person's about to leave me. This person's about to beat me. These are the thoughts you have. These are very old thoughts. No one's going to do anything to you. Nothing's going to happen to you. Well, fine, they'll yell at you, and that's just them acting out, but it has nothing's going to happen to you. Even if they leave you, you're going to be okay. So that inner adult, you need to develop that inner adult, and you need to talk to that inner child of yours and say, everything's okay. Everything's fine. I am safe. You're not in danger. Everything's okay. Now, the more you do it, this happens in split seconds, by the way. You immediately, when you learn to rein the breath, when you learn to master the breath, you are the master of your life. The breath is going to be literally your life and death. It is. It is what we come into the world with. It is what we will leave the world with. It is what we can guide our life with. So please do not underestimate the power of breath. And so telling them and reassuring that inner child, I am safe, I'm okay, you're not in danger. You might actually need to say, excuse me, I'm going to can you give me a few minutes? I'm going to be right back. You might need to remove yourself from that place and say, I will come back. Just give me 5 minutes. Go to a safe place, anchor yourself, calm your system down. A lot of times when I've worked with people that struggled with anger, they used lavender oil. They used all sorts of perfumes that actually had strong associations with, calming, their mother perfume or their whatever perfume. They actually used that to say, okay, I know who I am. Frontal lobe comes back online. This is now where you ask yourself, tell me what you need. Tell me what just happened. Now the inner adult is talking to the anger. Imagine this little anger sitting inside of you, and you say, what are you asking of me? Where do I need to stand up for myself? You know, what do you need in this moment? And it might say something like, don't let people mistreat you. Don't let people talk to you that way. Then this is where you need to do the work offline, which is you've got to have a toolbox of skills. You're going to constantly be angry and calming and angry and calming and angry and calming if you actually don't know what to do next. And this is where conflict management skills and conflict resolution skills, assertiveness skills, brave conversations, these are skills. We're not born with this. So we have to teach ourselves these skills. So you've got to learn the skills to be able to communicate difficult things while you're self-regulating. And this is basically the essence of emotional intelligence. Regulate, first understand, regulate, look at the other person, and then do something with what the space is between us. This is the hallmark of, these are the 4 pillars of emotional intelligence. So I know emotional intelligence sounds like it's a more sophisticated thing, but it's really like basic stuff that we're talking about here. So you're gonna need to learn about yourself. What are my trigger points? I know that when someone is doing something unfair, which feels like unfairness to me, that's a hot button for me. If I see unfairness or injustice happening in the world, that's a trigger for me. So there's things that are just hot buttons for all of us. Understand those. So really understanding what happened before, what happened during, what do you need? How can I communicate to this person that hey, I know you're really angry right now, but can we just take a moment to just step back a little bit? Because I can see things are getting really heated for us. We can reschedule this conversation, or we can just take a few minutes to just center ourselves, because I love you, I care about you, but this thing is starting to derail off into a dangerous, angry place. And why don't we just gather ourselves and then come back for this conversation? That's it. We've reined it in. We're now communicating. That was you drawing a boundary with love, that I love you and I really want this conversation to happen. And I really want to understand you. And I really want to know what this is about. But at the rate we're going, I'm getting super triggered right now. And we're just not going to have anything productive come out of this conversation. Wow. And they can keep shouting and just say, I'm not going to take this conversation further until both of us are in a better place. That's it. And I move away.
And is it true, Dr. Saliha, and I'm sure maybe you heard about it, that lips contain a lot of parasympathetic nervous system points. So by just brushing your lips, you actually enter the green zone. Even, I don't think it would be compared to breath, but it's something that lips contain a lot of those PNS points. So brushing it can allow you to enter that relaxation as well. So maybe that's something we can try. Because I read that
lip massaging at that point. But yes, I don't know that, but I'm sure if you're saying that's true.
Well, interesting, because they say how 30% of your sort of sensory points, like the most sensitive points, are in that, neck to head. So, massaging your head, massaging the face, all feels very good. But specifically, lips have all of these green zone points that we can cultivate some more relaxation by touching them. So then also, Dr. Saliha, you mentioned those skills that one should learn, the conflict resolution skills and brave conversation skills. How does one learn this? Is there a book we can read, or how do we learn all these skills?
It just depends on your learning style and your practicing partner. If you don't have a practicing partner, then you probably want to get a coach or a therapist. I also, before I want to go into learning skills to, you know, to rein some of that in and to ride that anger, I would actually say that anger could be pointing at other things that you need to work on. Because anger, repressed anger, could be trauma, so complex PTSD, childhood neglect. It could also be telling you that there's unprocessed grief. It could be telling you that there's depression or anxiety, because a lot of people, especially men, they don't show up as, you know, sobbing and crying. They just show up as really agitated and irritable and ready to just, you know, and that is a sign of depression in people. It's a sign of depression in a lot of children also who don't know how to articulate. So they might withdraw, they might shut down, or they might be acting out. They might be, you know, fighting, punching kids in the classroom. That all could indicate that they're not feeling stabilized. There's something is off. Their parents might be going through a divorce. They might have a new sibling that is born. So we do not just want to jump into assume that it's about assertiveness. It also could be that there's other stuff that needs to be worked through. And it could also be that, you know, you're holding on to grudges. You're holding on to old stuff. You didn't forgive your mom, and you didn't forgive your sister, and you didn't forgive your best friend from 4th grade. You didn't. And that stuff, well, you can keep putting it in there, keep putting it in there, keep putting in there. But just like any closet, right? Any container, and the body is a container. At some point, it's going to overflow. At some point, it's just the door ain't going to close and it's going to start to overflow. And that anger could be saying, you've got to do your work. And that's where a lot of people show up in their 30s and 40s, stressed, agitated, angry, depressed, anxious. And they're like, my life is fine. I don't know why I'm so angry. All right, time to go inwards and clean out the closet. And that's basically what's going to indicate. And you know, they say vengeance. A lot of people, that this vengeance or resentment is a lazy form of grief. So what have you not grieved in your life? That you grieve? What have you not just honored and said goodbye to and laid to rest in peace? And parts of your life, people in your life, parts of yourself, what can you say goodbye to and honor and lay to rest in peace? These are things that we don't do. We just get on with it, we move on, and we're on to the next. That stuff is still reverberating inside of you. Emotion is energy in motion. That energy cannot be, you know, it cannot be created or destroyed. It's got to go somewhere. So breath is going to be the way we move it out. So I would really encourage people to learn how to do breath work. That is one thing that I'm going to learn people. I'm going to teach, I'm going to encourage people to learn. And you can get coaches for that. You can take online courses for that. You don't need, it's not rocket science, but it is a science. So you should get a coach if you don't know how to do it. And then a lot of times you can learn some of these skills. I mean, the self-help book industry is, you know, self-help webinars and self-help this. But I personally believe that it remains very theoretical until we practice it with someone. And so we need safe people in our life that make us angry, and then we learn how to practice, and then we fumble around and we don't know what we're doing and we mess it up and we say, oh, listen, man, I'm sorry. And then we fumble around and then we say, oh, listen, man, I'm sorry, I'm really working on my anger now, but like it's just coming out all wrong. So we do need people that we can actually work through some of that stuff with, and they will hold that space for us. And that's why therapy is so helpful. But not everybody can, you know, not everybody can afford to be in therapy. Not everybody wants to be in therapy. But I would say that having a set of people, maybe even a support group that you can sort of engage with, where you can have some of that stuff come out and you work through that. Journaling is going to be very important, because I do believe healing and anger go hand in hand. The more you are working on your healing, the less reactive you're going to be. So imagine that you have an open wound here and someone goes to touch it. What's your first reaction? Without you thinking, oh, what are you doing? Right? That's going to be the first reaction. That's basically what our spirit is saying. There's wounds inside of you, and that's why you're so irritable and agitated. So working on healing those wounds, forgiving yourself, forgiving other people, all of that is going to be part of working with your anger, and then finding a way to integrate that.
And last question, it just came into my mind. I heard my mom overspeak with someone, and she said that yes, his wife left him because he's got, you know, this hot temper. He gets angry really easily, and this is genetically inherited because his uncle was like this as well. So I was like, can't be true, can it?
Well, everything has a biopsychosocial element to it, but this is a learned behavior. If I am yelling and screaming and shouting at my children, and then they go and learn and scream and shout at their children, is it genetics, or is it because I just screamed and yelled at them and this is just what they learned? And so if the like this, then the father was like this, and if the father was like this, then the father was like that too. So we can heal multi-generational wounds if we do our work in this world and in this life. We don't pass it on to our children. Even if it was done to us, we say it stops with, I'm going to heal, pass this down. And so I'm sure there's an element of some biology, because there's always a biological, psychological, and social element to any disorder in our psyche or any disorder in our life. But we also know from the science of epigenetics that genes turn on and off through stress. You stress the system enough. So just because diabetes is in my family doesn't mean I'm going to get diabetes. Just because like hot-headedness is in my family doesn't mean I'm going to get hot-headedness. It's what did I learn and what triggered that and what was learned behavior. So most often, it is what we learned. And it's just how we know how to be in the world. It's how we know how to get what we want in the world. We yell and we shout and we scream. No one said, you know what? I understand you really want this, but let's try it this way. No, either we get beat for being angry, and that it only makes us more angry, or we punish. You see what I'm saying? Like, you see how no one teaches us. And so that's why I think it's so important. And that's one of the reasons why we created the Smart Hard board game, is because we want to work with kids when they're early. And that is, for me, a very, very important part of my journey. Was when I had children, is I was like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Because I don't want to pass some of this stuff down. I don't want my kids to be angry. I want them to feel heard. I want them to feel loved. I want them to be seen. I want, you know, my son, my 12-year-old son, is actually a lot like me. He is hot-headed. And so I can see that his genetic makeup is similar to mine. You can call it genes. I call it the spirit. Like, we share a soul in that way. And there's a lot of, you know, sort of reactivity in him. And so I have to now sit with him instead of shaming him and saying, what the hell are you thinking? No, I'm saying, all right, listen, you and me, we're the same. We're like wild stallions. You're going to have to learn how to be the spirit whisperer. You're going to have to learn that this is what's happening. You're going to feel your ears get hot. You're going to feel your neck get hot. You're going to feel all of this before you shout. So when that happens, go cool off. These are your pulse points. These are the hottest parts of your body where all the perfume goes. For Muslims, this is where we do our wudu. We literally cool off all our meridian points. And so go do that and then come back and have this conversation. But I have to teach him. And so instead of shaming him, it ends up being where we hug it out and we say, all right, let's try it again next time. Let's try it again next time. Let's try it again next time. That's it.
That's it. So beautifully dissected this such grand emotion, and now I'm not looking at it even as it's bad. It's a grand emotion. It's an emotion that drives us forward. It's an emotion that shows us who we are and what we don't like, and we need to address that, you know, by taking a step back and really understanding what is happening. And I think all I wish is for people that are suffering a lot from this emotion of anger is for them to open themselves up to the idea that no, I don't need to accept it. It's not genetic. It's not because my dad was angry. I have also to be angry. I hope these people do open up to the idea that there is healing to be done. And we can't just stay in denial and continue living life like that, because there are physical implications, just like you listed all of them. So this is so powerful for people that are sort of going through these phases, to step back and be like, okay, I have this issue, so how can I deal with it? And then they will come to you, or come to many other coaches that work with these things, right? And I know Lighthouse Arabia, you're the founder of this amazing clinic, and you've got all these therapists there, coaches, psychologists that help people through. But also, as you said, not everybody can afford it. Not everybody has that access to the coach. So what do they do? Just sort of...
Well, we do have support groups that are run by these therapists that are free of charge. So you can be within a group talking about your stuff, whatever that might be. We have 20 different support groups, from
wow,
people who receive, who experience racism, to infertility, to grief, to job loss, to divorce, to single parenting. So we really have the whole breadth of support groups that people can go to and talk about. And one is emotional health. So we will be making a support group for new mothers or mothers of young children, postnatal depression, and mood disorders. So these are very high, senior psychologists that are giving of their time for free. It just happens to be within a group environment with others who are struggling with things. So that's one thing that I would like to say. But I would like to say one last thing, because you did say it was a grand emotion. And that's precisely it. And I know that with my journey and my own story of anger, it went from this, I was shamed, and I was guilty, and then I was feeling, ostracized, and then I went through the whole spectrum of all sorts of, like, what do I do with this anger, to dissociating from it and just becoming very, very rational, denying my emotions altogether. And then I came to a place where I realized that it is my spirit that was and that was actually guiding me in all of those moments. So that was the angry spirit, but also that once you learn what to do with that and you transmute that anger, it becomes your power. It's power, where you are used to forcing yourself and you're used to fighting for things. Anger, actually, when you learn to integrate it, and you learn to listen to it, and you learn to have a relationship with it, it becomes your power. It literally is like a plug that actually moves you forward. And if you look at anyone that has done anything great in this world, whether it was Mother Teresa, to Mahatma Gandhi, to Martin Luther King, they were angry. They just did something different with their anger, and they transmute that and move towards a civil disobedience, but it was still disobedience from the larger culture. So how do you use that as a fuel? And it is the most magnificent emotion, actually. And when you learn how to ride that emotion and learn to be with that emotion, the journey is beautiful, actually.
Just like you said, energy and motion. If we just learn how to channel it, and great things will come out of that. Just, in half an hour, Dr. Saliha, you just changed my entire perception on anger.
Anybody who's angry, just message me. I'll sort you out.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for leading us through it. And there will be, I know a lot of people said, please save this video. It will be saved on our IGTV, and you can watch it many, many times over, taking notes from this wonderful lecture that we just had. And thank you so much. We will take note of everything and use our this magnificent, magical, godly sent emotion into something rightly used.
May the force be with you.
Yes. May the angry force be with me.
Yeah.
Thank you. So thank you so much for everybody who tuned in, all Dr. Saliha's wonderful fans and followers. And this video will be saved, and next week there'll be no Berries and Tea show, but there will be a launch of our YouTube channel. So all of our Berries and Tea videos will be up on the YouTube channel, and many other things as well. So that's a very exciting launch for us. And Dr. Saliha, wish you a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and hopefully we'll be able to host you again, maybe in a few months' time, about some other grand emotion that's there to explore.
My pleasure, Nigora. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye. Bye, everybody.